Hey everyone, my name is Shamananda. Welcome to Live with John and Shamananda today. So excited to be here. I apologize. Usually we get on a little sooner. We had a few technical difficulties which have now been cleared up, but welcome. And here we have a guest, actually, an additional guest today. But first, I want to say, here's John. Hi, John.
Hey Guru, how's it going? How's everyone doing today? Super excited to have this special guest on, and yeah, can't wait to share who it is with you and get things going.
Right, right. So everyone, this is Amanda. Amanda, you're live. Go ahead and wave.
Hello.
There we go. And Amanda is. Oh, somebody said, "Hey, hey, Jennifer." I can see you in the chat. Welcome. So Amanda is one of my clients, and I talked to her in her last session with me, and I just asked her if she would maybe want to come online and talk a little bit about her experience with me to start off, to kick off this live with all of you. So here she is. Really, Amanda, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what your experience has been with me and overall just how you've been feeling, if you want to share what we've been working on to whatever degree you want to share, it's totally fine. I'm not going to dive deep into any of that. It's whatever you share is completely up to you. So anyway, I just wanted people to have a better understanding of what it's like to work with someone like me. And I find that your life is really interesting because you're because of the type of work you do and the type of needs that you have. I want people to understand that I don't just serve one type of demographic. I serve all kinds of demographic, and I thought you'd be a good example. So, Amanda, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. I guess I'll just start off by sharing a little bit about why I even found Shamananda to begin with. I've been really trying to work on my performance at work. That was the main reason why I even would seek out therapy. I've looked at hypnotherapy, all different forms, and it was all based on how can I elevate my performance, get more done, be more successful in the long term. And of course, along the way, you learn that there's a lot of emotional things that get in the way that are really the elements that are holding you back more so than quote unquote, how do I fix myself, right? It's like you have all the tools, but you don't realize. And I, started off with therapy, and I noticed there were a lot of sessions that some were valuable, some not so much. But as I kind of kept going through the process, it was like, okay, I need some energy work. I need somebody that has more of an expansive way of thinking. Because the reality is, once you work through kind of the emotional things that are the underlying problems, you're like, for someone like me, the work does not stop there because you still want to continue to expand and grow the way you think, the way that you look at the world. And that's not going to be possible in therapy or some of the other areas where there's kind of a more basic level of thinking. So I found Shamananda. I was really impressed with all of the information that she had on her website, and just what she shared with me via our email communication. So I met with her, and I'm kind of a skeptical person, meaning in a good way, meaning like, okay, I'll try things, but we'll see. And I found that she was really well studied in everything that she knows. She knows the ins and outs to the depth of her work. And for myself in self help, I look for the absolute best people I can find that have specific strengths that I am looking to leverage in order to get to this positive outcome. And she demonstrated all of that to me. And then also walked me through just how she works. One big thing that I'll say is many people go and seek out this help not knowing their underlying issues or the root cause of pretty much anything, right? If we could kind of figure that out, we probably would have, but we can't, we're not aware of it. It's not really something that's conscious to us. I can say one or two sentences to her and she'll say, "Oh, well, that sounds like this." And I can feel in my own body like, "Oh, wow, that's exactly what it is." that's what the root cause is, and then you can start to work on it. Whereas you might sit in session after session with other people to try to get to that layer that's really important so that you can do the right targeted work to grow. um, and also the body work was really helpful. I didn't know what to expect there, but like even afterwards I can feel changes in my body, where I used to hold a lot of tension, pressures, etc. Those areas are more kind of relieved. I I would hold a lot of pressure in my gut area. It was always like a little bit bloated. Now it's a lot more flattened. It's really interesting just how like managing that energy and working on these root cause issues really leads to transformation very quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. John, do you have any comments on what she said?
That
John,
was.
can you hear me?
Can
What
you
was
hear me?
that? Yeah, yeah.
That was incredible. And I had one question. What would be like your biggest takeaway, when you first started to now? Like, what was, if you don't mind sharing, what was one of your big takeaways that you're kind of describing like you couldn't get anywhere else, and that was kind of coming up when I was listening to you just now.
Yeah, I would say just like session after session of knowing like, oh well, that's the root cause of that. Like, oh well, okay, geez, like I've been at this for a few years and had no idea. And it wasn't just one time, it's like every time that you go and visit and have that discussion, that something pretty profound is revealed. And then I really appreciate the targeted advice and action items that you can take to reverse that, whatever it is. Like, for myself, a lot of self worth issues, a lot of fears that were more deep seated, a feeling of not being safe, these things that I didn't really attribute to root cause of anything. And then through a lot of the mantra meditations and focused work, that was really helpful, as well as also being able to do some exercises to rewire your thinking around that. So I had a lot of memories that were ruminating that I wanted to not have so prominent, and went through some exercises that Shamananda recommended. And those, I can kind of appreciate them for what they are and what they taught me, and not really focus on them, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve. And those things that are shifting shift quickly. It's like you meet one week, you do the homework, by the next week, it's either gone or um, very improved. So as long as, as a participant, you're willing to do the homework, put in the effort that's recommended to you, you will see those shifts in your life happen pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And that's the key really, is knowing that you get to put in the work, you get to work as hard as I do. So I can give people the information, and I always do, but for the people that it might not work for, it usually is because they want to be fixed. They don't want to do the work. They just want to go somewhere and have it done for them, and then they want to walk away feeling different, and it doesn't work that way. I can only, it's like leading a horse to water. It doesn't, and if they're really thirsty, if they don't drink, there's nothing I can do. So people get to they get to work hard at this. They get to take the information and then do the internal work. And if they don't, then they're not going to move forward. It's that simple. I mean, I can provide all the aha moments until the cows come home, but I'm using a lot of farm animals in these examples, with the horses and the cows, and I really like animals. That's probably why. Anyway, I'm so grateful that you came on here to share. I mean, if there's anything else, John, you want to say, or Amanda, if there's anything that you would like to add before we let you go. I know you're a very busy person, and are a very important person and have a lot of important things to do. You're welcome to stay with us the whole time. I'm not kicking you off by any means, but I don't want to hang on to you for longer than you can stay. So any closing or continuing thoughts from either of you? Ready? No? Yes?
John, do you have any
Yeah,
questions
I'll
for me?
go for one more. So I liked how you highlighted, exponentially changed. Can you expand on that with what you were talking about? How maybe you were working at something for, I think you said the last few years, and kind of give the viewers a tangible viewpoint or landscape on that quick turn or something that had shifted, how many sessions, and kind of just touch on that briefly.
Sure. One of the big reasons why I even started was because I was trying to level up my career and get into more executive leadership work. So I had a lot of issues being able to present effectively or have a quote unquote executive presence, if you will. Had a lot of feelings of not being worthy enough to sit in the space with other C-suite leaders or CEOs, et cetera. So I had a lot to work on there. And obviously, all of that is stemming from childhood and things that I'm growing up with that I didn't even realize. So a lot of the big shifts were really uncovering that. And then like facing it and looking it in the eye and going like, okay, like I wasn't happy about that, being able to forgive it and acknowledge what it is and kind of move forward from it so that it wasn't constantly playing the messages behind the scenes of like, hey, what do you think you're doing? You're not worthy of being here, when all the evidence around me said the opposite. I was being pulled by my own soul to do more, to be in a bigger space, to exist in a greater capacity. And these voices just kept saying, no, no, no. And I think one of the big things is just realizing that I'm trying to go about this leadership role in the wrong way. That I am in a corporate environment, current state, and I'm better served helping people in more of an individual or small group capacity, and also not being limited by kind of the stipulations of corporate America, if you will, and that structure. And coming to that realization is heavily due to my work with Shamananda. And then also, as we uncover a lot of the self limiting beliefs, there's conversations I'll enter into that would normally make me feel very uncomfortable that I don't seem to care about anymore. Situations that I might have been really nervous about, not really that nervous about them. So it's sort of like whatever that computer programming was that was driving a lot of negative behaviors is driving a lot more of the positive, and I'm getting more of that feedback at work that I am stepping into this more executive presence, et cetera, which is like awesome because I'm going to take that somewhere else and have my own business, my own company. But all of that courage, all of that comes from my work with her. Does that answer your question, John?
Yes, above and beyond, I think, answering it. And I appreciate you and I'm grateful for you sharing that. And it's exciting to hear all your breakthrough in a short amount of time. And when did you first start seeing Shamananda? And, um, you know, how quickly did it take to see some of the things you've been sharing with us?
I think I don't recall. It's probably like September, October of last year.
Mhm.
And I would say every single week there's progress. So like even after the very first session, I started to feel better. And then the very specific homework that targets the root cause of the issues that you're having, like every week that you commit to it, fully commit to it, you see progress at the end of every single week. So it's like you anticipate to meet again to talk more through it because it's like, okay, now what do you have, right? What's my homework now? Because it works. So like I want to do as much as I can, and see that benefit and value and just keep learning more and more.
Wow. I love that. And thanks for sharing that. And that adds a lot of value to our viewers because the last few episodes we've been sharing about, spiritual practices. And a lot of times people don't know where to start. So I'll end with this question because, Shamananda and I respect your time, is what have been some of your homework assignments, if you don't mind sharing? And what have you cultivated for such like maybe a daily practice for yourself?
I definitely, in terms of the daily practice, have got back into meditation, which was helpful before, but I lost my way, so I'm back into that. And I think the homework that's been really helpful has been a lot of the mantra meditations and then also journaling quite a bit. So leveraging like when you're getting in touch with your own higher power and your own energy through your meditation, being able to go, okay, now I'm going to do some of these journaling exercises and get advice from, my higher self or the powers that be to really understand what's going on in my own life. And so she recommended that I do inner child journaling, which I had never heard of before, and it made me kind of laugh because I told her I never wanted to be a parent, and now I have to parent my own inner child. So I thought that was kind of funny. um, but I was like, okay, well, we'll see like how this goes. And inevitably, the answers came through the exercise. And there were a lot of things that I've been able to learn about myself that I didn't know without having really created more of this like journaling practice. Cause it's like you do it a couple times because you're prompted. It's like, wow, that really works. Now, by nature, I'm doing it more regularly because I want to see the benefits from it.
That's so good. Yeah, we brought up actually inner child dialogue last episode. If you don't mind answering one more question, do you mind?
I do not. Go ahead.
Okay, so, with the inner child dialogue, kind of explain what the homework was about and how you go through that process. We kind of explained it last episode, but you've said some beautiful cognitions and have shared so much great value that we would love to hear it from your lens.
Sure. One of the big issues that I've been having is that my corporate job, I'm not super fulfilled there, and I was really having a hard time even getting anything done, like just doing regular work. And it's, uh, there's a big backstory there, but if you don't feel valued or you don't feel like people care about the output, why do it? And what I learned was that that's really your inner child kind of putting up a little bit of a tantrum there and being like, hey, hear me, care about me. And that I was kind of putting this pressure on my work environment and the people around me to make me feel cared for, to make me feel valued when really that needs to come from within myself. And so that was a really kind of hard realization because no one wants to be that person that feels as though they're putting this sort of expectation on others that's unrealistic and very unfair. And so that's started the journaling to really understand why that would even happen. Why would you even do that? Um, and I think from that initial conversation, it was sort of like highlighting some of the things I'm mentioning about needing this to be seen and all that, but you need to see your own work. You need to value your own work. You need to know the quality of your own work. So if you're working with other people that, in my case, have no exposure to what I do for a career and don't know what good looks like, I know what good looks like. I know what high quality work looks like in this field. I need to stand behind that and stop relying on other people to tell me, yeah, your work is good. This is great. We really like it. We really appreciate it. If they say that, great. That's sort of like a value add. It's nice to have. But if they don't, I should be able to feel whole and feel really good about the efforts I've made regardless.
Wow, I love that. You you're on fire. I love it, and thank you so much for taking the time today to come on with us. And yeah, we have a lot of viewers similar to you working, the corporate America long hours. So I know a few of my friends have asked me similar things that you shared. So thank you again so much for opening up and being vulnerable with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I wanted to thank you, Shamananda, for all the effort that you put into my well being and my personal growth. And I know it's kind of just the start. There's a lot of other things I know I want to do. And I know that you're the right person to be able to help guide that for me. And so I'm just really appreciative to know you, and I'm glad that we connected. And I wanted everybody to know just how much you're dedicated to your work and how you make people feel comfortable and how you do such an exceptional job of building trust, especially with people like me who come in kind of unsure, uncertain, wanting to find that type of connection, but maybe struggling to trust in the beginning. So you converted someone very quickly. So I think others should know, you know, that you really mean it when you build those relationships, and that's part of what allows this transformation to really come into play.
Oh my gosh. I'm humbled by your words. Thank you. I do try very hard. I work very hard at creating relationship with people, and it does mean everything to me. Uh, and Amanda, you can, and John, you too, both of you can understand that it's more to me than just seeing somebody in my office and sitting with them and talking to them, or doing, a combination of mental and emotional work with the physical and spiritual work, with the body work. It goes well beyond that. I talk to people outside. I send them messages. We communicate when you're not in my office. I offer as much as I can of myself during that time because I care. And I think a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people keep it very clinical, but I really get hands on involved as much as I can, as much as people want me to, in a very not just in a relationship where we're working professionally together to try to make sure certain results occur, but also just on a more personal level, just so that people feel uh, they feel like they can trust and they can share and they can really go deep, because without that kind of real connection, people have a really hard time getting to the deeper issues. So, and I found that the best way to do that is by actually creating relationship. And I know on a therapist standpoint, or going in to see those types of professionals, you're not allowed to do that, and it can be dangerous. And I think when it comes to me, I have the ability and the option to do that with the people, with by creating healthy boundaries with, of course, some people, because you just get to do that. But in a lot of ways, I have other options, so I can create relationship. I can become friends and family with people in ways that they can't, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference. I don't know what you guys think. I'd like to know what you guys think, because that's just how I am. But go ahead and just lay it out and give me your thoughts. Who wants to start? Who's talking? I'm going to click over. John, you can start.
Okay. Thanks, Guru. I think you solidified what really makes you different is the accountability side beyond your sessions. And then also too, it's all about engagement. So she was saying perfectly about the homework and following up and saying, "Hey, I've done this. What can I do more?" And I think so many times in this earthy world, people think like, "Oh, I just did it. I could check it off." And you've never been that way. It's always about the journey. It's never about the destination. And so, with that being said, all the things that I've learned from you have been incorporated in my daily practice. And then I change it up, much like we change up our eating habits or workout habits, or my spiritual practices. There's things that are concrete, and then there's other things that, like, okay, today I feel like grounding, or today I want to work out twice, right, for my physical body, or I'm going to double down on more of my spiritual practices, or what does that emotional body need. So I think running things by you too, and just how you've been so open, in terms of transparent, with me, and straightforward, because people need a lot of straightforward, just direct, because we live in a world where there's a lot of gray area, and people don't ask, "Hey, what do I get to create, or what do I get to do to improve myself?" So I've truly enjoyed just the accountability, just to share. I check in twice a day, with you, Guru, and that's really changed my life. And when I don't check in on time, and there's a certain time frames that I get to choose to check in at. It's really working on my word, not just with my practices, but the people around. And so I think accountability is so important because it really magnifies, well, what other areas have I dropped the ball, or what other areas am I where this kind of floods over to certain aspects. So and that's, I think when I first started out, that's, you've raised that to me, and it took a little bit to comprehend and really adjust to that, because we live in a world where there's not a lot of accountability, and there is not a lot of boundaries with maybe our jobs, our family members, our relationships, work relationships, significant others, and things of that nature. So I'm just grateful for the accountability, but also to just how can I be the best version of myself. So thank you.
Absolutely. And that commitment's really important. And if you can, it gets to be, that kind of commitment gets to be the most important thing. It gets to be almost obsessive, because it should always be in the forefront of your mind. And if it's there all the time in that way, then it'll be a constant. It was kind of like, Amanda, I was telling you my idea of what commitment really means to me, where if I have that commitment, every single other decision will revolve around that one commitment. And so when I say it almost gets to be obsessive in nature, that's what I'm talking about. It's like that one thing. It's really just right in front, and then everything else goes around. And that's how I feel about everyone I work with. I'm that commitment. That level of commitment is up to here, and I make sure that all my decisions revolve around it. Anyway, I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak before you went back to work, Amanda. Was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, John, you said something that really clicked with me about just having somebody being really straightforward with you. I'll say that if someone isn't, that's going to upset me because I just want to hear it like it is, bad, good, or otherwise doesn't matter as long as it's respectful, and that's how you grow and learn. Like even in my current work environment, there's people who dance around things all the time because they're afraid to speak out or say it direct, and it causes a lot of problems. You don't have genuine relationships with people, you don't have genuine feedback on what you're trying to achieve or do. So if someone like me were to walk into someone's office to get help like that, and they were not like respectfully direct in that capacity, like I would question their ability to do this work. And that's one of the things that really stands out to me about working with Shamananda as well, is just, okay, I know someone's just going to say it like it is. And that's exactly for myself, my personality type. That's what I need to hear in order to respond and really take the action to grow. So I appreciate that immensely. And so I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you. John?
Thank you so much, Amanda. Appreciate you sharing, and that's what it's all about. You guys viewing and future viewers is Amanda has said some incredible things, and we're here. We're all here to support the collective. We're all here to support each other's growth and be there and be able to share our truth and our journey.
I wanted to say too, I'm really grateful for your candidness and your honesty. When Amanda asked what she should talk about when she came on, I only gave her one thing, and that was just be honest. Just tell it like it is. That's all I want. I didn't want her to fluff up anything or to BS. I just wanted her just to tell the truth and to share her organic experience so that you guys understood authentically where I'm coming from. I think that's really important as I continue to build relationship with all of you. And, I want to build the same kind of relationship that I have with all of you that I build in my private practice with everyone around me. I love everyone so much, and all I want to do is support. So, that's basically if I bring people on, I just want them to tell the truth, really, and just organically share what they want to share, and that's about it. But anyway, so I just wanted to express my gratitude and thank you for coming. And you're welcome to come on anytime and share more. You know, I know that you're creating some really interesting things in your life, and at one point when you're ready to share, I'd love to hear you talk about them. I know that there's things in the works, and maybe it's not time yet, but when you do have that time, then I would love to bring that to the forefront and share that with everyone.
Yeah, I would love that. It's been really nice just chatting with both of you. So anytime I could ever join, I'm always open to it. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. We love
Yeah.
you. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you. See you guys later.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Isn't she awesome?
That was incredible, you guys. Thanks, Guru, for having Amanda on. And I think it just, what I was thinking the whole time she was sharing it, it just paints a picture of someone so committed to their self development. And what was really tangible for her is the exponential growth in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And I wanted her to highlight, or I wanted to her to expand on that, because I think I think that's really your specialty is, when you're seeing clients, and it happened to me, is really willing to pinpoint what are the blockages, right, in a short amount of time. And I feel like other nothing, I'm not saying anything against other practices or things that people do, but your gift is, exponentially taking care of people in a real timely, divine, way. Um, and she highlighted that, and I can't believe, I was thinking she's been longer than a year just from what her excitement and things. And it's really great to see that growth.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. She's just been so devoted to her growth and everything that we've been doing. She does her homework, which and every single person that does their homework with me, they grow so quickly. So
Mhm.
I'm really grateful she wanted to come on and she was open, and I absolutely adore her. So I'm looking forward to continuing our relationship for hopefully many years to come. I feel that way about everyone, of course. And, I'm excited about Amanda specifically in this moment, just because I can see where she's going in life, and I know she's gonna really she's really gonna make some waves out there as she builds different things that she's working on. So anyway, I'm excited for her.
Exciting, yeah.
And
So
so anyway, we should get into the questions part of our live, which I know that you've prepared a few questions for me. I think I looked at them briefly, but I'm ready. Fire away.
Okay, so super excited to be here, you guys. I think, with what we're sharing, this is, what we're all about is supporting you guys. And if you guys have questions, I know some of the questions I'm going to share are, um, some people that I know, or what maybe some of their challenges are, or what are some things that they're really excited about in their life. And it just goes back to what Amanda was sharing too, is we're all one person and one decision away from a completely different lifestyle. And when we commit to that, beautiful things happen to us. So I wanted to start off with, and it's so cool. And I didn't have any idea that Amanda was going to be sharing space with us today. Guru, I wanted to ask you what has been some important lessons for yourself over the years? Maybe start with how many years you've have been in practice, and then what has been like one of the most important things you have learned by seeing so many clients? Because you've seen, so many clients, from high profile people to, anybody, right? So your practice, you've seen so many different types of people. We're all, similar. Uh, and just because we're elevated in this earthy life doesn't mean we all have similar challenges. So start with one. The first question is how long you've been in practice, and what are some of your important lessons you have learned from your clients over the years?
My gosh, I would say, as far as learning lessons from my clients, they do nothing but teach me how to be a better person, how to work things better in my own life. It's the most humbling experience that I could possibly do in every single moment, and they continue to teach me on a regular basis who I get to be, how I get to stand, how I can be in higher integrity, how I can be greater love. And it's an incredible lesson and journey every single day that that I have the privilege of working with people. And yes, you're right. I'm able to work with all kinds of people. I've been blessed to work with people of all walks of life, which is really exciting. So, and I think from when you begin to have that kind of experience, when you're really looking at the landscape of all types of different people and all types of different levels of success or fame, or maybe there, or some people who have a lot of money, and some people who have a lot of money, and then some people who have just regular income, average, and then some people who don't have any. It's not just money is one thing. Social status is another thing. Mental capacity. So there's people who have mental disorders. Some who know they have mental disorders, and some who don't. And that's really important, because sometimes people will walk in and it's very clear that they're schizophrenic, and they don't know. They don't have a clue. They just know that they're suffering and they're scared. And those ones are tougher, because you can't, it's depending on the situation, it can be very precarious how you deal with that. And then there's people who know they have a mental disorder, and they get to work through that. Sometimes they want to get off meds, and sometimes they shouldn't because they're not ready. And sometimes they're ready and they should. And there's so many different types of scenarios that I've been blessed to have the experience in. So, celebrities obviously are going to have different problems than people who are just stop being homeless, as an example, or somebody that's dying of cancer, or someone that has a crippling problem with their legs, or it's all very different. But I learned something from every single scenario, and it's such a blessing. And it's very difficult to encapsulate what I'm learning, because it's different with every single situation. So as far as how long I've been practicing, I would say, I'm trying to remember when I first started, because I guess training for a shaman lasts their whole lives. It's from birth to, and it never stops. I mean, you never arrive. You continue to grow with every leg of your life. And if you ever feel like you've arrived, you've lost. The growth gets to keep going. So I'll never feel like I've arrived. I know that there's still so much to learn in this life and through people, and I'm grateful for that. So growth just gets to keep going. But I would say, as far as when I met my guru, where I really started training and learning and growing, that was probably, I would say, a little more than 20 years ago. And then after that, it wasn't that long before I had my own practice. So it was, I would say, at least 15 years since I've been practicing and working with people, maybe longer. It's hard to, I'd have to look at the dates, but it's been a while. And, I think I'm on my fourth office space or something like that I've been at for quite a while now. And I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for the building itself, and how they put up with all the, everything that goes on there. No, just kidding. I'm a great client, but no, and my clients that come through are really wonderful too. So it's really no problems. But I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, of course. And I think it paints that picture of, so many years of, different people. I love the or the words walks of life, because there's so many people that have come to see you that you've helped from all age groups. And there's no specifics of a target, person or clientele. It's everyone. So thanks so much for sharing that. What would you say for yourself? That I always like asking these types of questions, because sometimes out in the world, people think a shaman or a guru, oh, they're godly or they're perfect. What would you say that something that you're not good at? Just a few, maybe a few things that you personally aren't good at. It doesn't have to relate to what you do. Sometimes people get that conception of in the mind of like, oh, that person's a guru, or that, she's a shaman. So
Yeah. So, and there's a distinction. There's my shaman title and my guru title are separate, but they combine into one person. But anyway, so that is a whole nother thing. I would say there is judgment that happens in this world where people decide based on their own circumstances and situations and their own feelings about themselves. They decide when they look upon somebody else that if they're doing something, it's an imperfection. So if we are really looking at it in a way that's of a higher consciousness, then we must understand that no one is imperfect in what they're creating. Everything that they're creating is a perfect outpicturing of who they are based upon their own circumstances, conditions, and their beliefs, limiting or otherwise. So it has nothing to do with perfection. So people might look at me and say, oh, well, her appearance isn't perfect. The way she speaks isn't perfect. She didn't say that perfectly. Yeah, but who's to say that wasn't perfect from my perspective? Or I don't think perfection means what people think it means. I think people think that perfection means perfect according to their perception of what perfect means. And if that's the case, you'll never reach it, because everyone has a different idea about what perfection is. So instead, I believe perfectionism stems from this outpicturing of who you believe you are and how it perfectly orchestrates in your world, in your words, thoughts, deeds, and actions. So, as far as me or people like me being perfect or not, I don't believe it in anyone. I don't even see it as a thing. So I debunked that completely, in my opinion. But
yep.
But to be fair, to answer your question, if you are seeing someone else as imperfect, whether it's someone like me or somebody else, it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with your own limiting beliefs and your own judgment about what you feel like should be right or wrong in life, which I also don't feel like they exist either. So I hope that answers your question.
So good. I love that. So we've been talking about spiritual practices, and I've shared some of mine. Amanda was brilliant in sharing hers. What are some of your spiritual practices that you enjoy daily?
Oh, wow. Well, I love connecting to who I am as, some people will call it God, highest self, spirit, the universe. There is something very special about plugging into that part of yourself. And I've chosen in my life to plug into that part of myself all the time because I love it so much. And it supports me in everything that I do. It brings up your intuition. It allows you to see the world in a way that's elevated. And it's your birthright and it's your destiny to be able to do this. And I believe that everyone out there listening can do it. And it's not special for people like anyone. I mean, anyone out there, me, anyone. It's not a special thing. It's something you can claim. So, and I think as long as you claim it, it's yours. It's just like being born with a body. You know, it's you get to borrow it, you get to have it while you're here. It's you get to claim this very special thing that makes your existence so much easier. So, so claim it, and I'll show you how. I'd love to.
I like I like it a lot. Uh, so this is I like the words that you keep saying is a tangible, right? What's tangible? What are what's a like a tangible question I'm always thinking to ask, but also too, what's going to deliver some value. So I think I loved how I asked what you've lessons over the years with your clients. What do you hope for our world in the next 10 years in what you do and what you see on a daily basis for the collective?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I would say it would be really great if people could begin elevating their consciousness and seeing what they're truly creating. Now, with every level, you're going to realize new things and it's going to change, and you get to be okay with it continually changing as you continue to ascend. So don't be attached to one way of thinking, one outlook, because there are so many more that are so much better than any level that you might achieve. And that includes me, and that's how I've continued to elevate my own consciousness. So I know I can't be attached to whatever I believe in at any given moment, because I know in 5 minutes it could change if I find something better, and then I replace it until hopefully I get as close to the truth as I possibly can. So don't be attached. But I would say part of what I'd like to see in the world is for people to love each other and to learn what love is, learn what unconditional love really means. So it's not about judging people and being upset with them because they have a different viewpoint. It's not about judging yourself, and therefore when you judge yourself, you judge others. I want people to understand why they're creating their actions that they're creating that's causing problems for them. And I want to end suffering in people's consciousness so they can be at peace. So for the next 10 years, if we can get to that place where everyone learns how to communicate with each other in a way that's peaceful, with a deeper understanding of what it really means when people disagree or when they feel a different way, or, teaching how to get along with others and to extract the toxicity of interpersonal relationships is what my goal would be in the next 10 years. And, so once you start implementing that level of peace, everything changes. Once you start loving the world and loving yourself, everything would change. It's not just about how we get along with each other, but how different companies would deal with toxic products. We've come to a place in our world where toxicity in products are normal, and that it's up to us to not buy the products when they're toxic, instead of the people making them saying, wow, this is morally wrong and we're making money off of killing people. Maybe we shouldn't do this. I don't understand it. But if we're in a level of consciousness with each other where, no, we get to love each other and make sure that we're all living long, healthy lives, and it's about health and it's about well-being, then this stuff wouldn't be created to begin with, and it's normalized, and it shouldn't be. So I would love to see a shift in that way of thinking when it comes to creating things for people when they don't know any better. They don't know. They go to the store, they assume it's safe. And it's not. And there is a level of toxicity in all these products, but if you want to buy it, it's yours. Give me the money. It's not okay. It's not okay to do that. So I'd love to see that shift too. And, I'd like to find a level of peace with just interrelationships with everyone, some sort of understanding of diversity, and that it's okay that diversity exists, and that we can all get along, and that we can all love each other and love our differences, and, learn from them and be interested. And it's a very frustrating world for that reason. But
Mm-hmm.
I get to continue to pump as much love into this world as I can. And hopefully at one point people will have that experience in their own lives. I'm only one person and I'm a nobody. So I'm hoping that at one point, even if I can affect one little tiny grain of sand out there, maybe it'll start affecting a little part of the beach. That's all I can hope for. I hope that answers your question.
That was the ripple effect that you said at the end. That's the big movement of your work with your clients and what you've done year over year. You're right in terms of we're at a pivotal time uh, in our world where it's I wouldn't say getting down to the wire. We're getting close to what we get to create and at laser speeds to do that. And I think more and more people are waking up to you shedded light on it is our products, our consumer products. And to think that each country is different on that. On top of that, here where we live in the US, it's a lot of consumer products where there's a lot of toxic things that are banned in, say, Europe. So you're so right about the transparency and where we're going and the overall, and you've shared it with me multiple times, is that map of consciousness. How does that look? How does that go up? And how do we conquer, or how do we uplift others? So thanks for sharing and opening up on that, because that could be a whole nother episode. And I got ideas brewing for more questions on that, dude. So uh so I wanted to talk about something because we've both shared, and it's happened, in my life. Someone in my life, close to me, is there's been a lot of deaths that have been happening towards the end of 2022. Also, streamlining into 2023. I lost my best friend, Kiyoki, 2 weeks ago. There was a lot of death over the holidays. I just wanted you to touch on why people are afraid to, or why are people afraid of death, and then why are others at peace with it?
I think that would boil down to people's idea of what death means for them. There's a lot of fear in the unknown. So when people die, it's the ending of everything they know in this life, and it's either the beginning of something new or there's nothing. And that big old void of nothing is frightening because it's just you know there's nothing there. It's quiet. It's dark. There's no thoughts. There's no nothing. And so when you're used to being alive and you have all of these emotions and feelings and thoughts about what it means to exist, and then there's all the attachments that is placed upon what you feel life to be and what you care about in this life, and there's hundreds of millions of little attachments there. I think that makes it very frightening for people to let all of those go all at once when you die. But there are some people that don't have attachments here. And for those people, death isn't that frightening. They realize, well, if I let go of all this, it's probably going to feel like a relief because I don't have to hang on to it anymore. Or they just don't feel all that many attachments to their life in this world, which actually is a very important thing to start doing anyway, is to lose the attachments here. Don't get me wrong. People might say, well, what about my dog? What about my family? What about my mother? It's not loving people unconditionally and really truly loving them with all of your soul is one thing. But having an attachment to what it looks like, and there's a lot of different things that's a problem with attachments. It's the act of attachment itself can be very toxic for a person. And there's a lot of different reasons why. So, but if you lose all of those and still can embrace and love everything with all of your heart, you're actually loving them a lot more than if you were just attached to them for selfish reasons, if that makes sense. So, but that's why people fear it. they're afraid of they might be afraid of pain. They might be afraid of just letting go of everything. They might be afraid of the unknown, but and ceasing to exist and stepping into a void if that's what they believe. It's based on the belief system too, but I think those are some of the reasons.
Hmm. Thanks for sharing those. Uh, Recently, I think it was it last year, I came across someone saying, um, you know, people on average are forgotten after like 3 generations. And they were talking about how well do we know like our parents, how well do we know our grandparents, and then their parents. And it made me think, Guru. I'm like, dang, like I know my parents really well, pretty well. Sometimes people don't though, and then or not even knowing who their parents are. Uh, and then knowing your grandparents, that's a whole nother layer. I only had one grandparent growing up that was alive. We were super close. And so, with that being said, what would you say? So, the question is, why are so many people fearful um, to live even more? If I don't, well, hold on. I get excited with these questions because there's so many levels to it. Is if people are forgot, like if you told someone, hey, you're going to be forgotten in three, like when you transition, you're going to be forgotten in 3 generations, what would you change? You're fearful of XYZ. um, to back up, to circle back around to the fear discussion, you think people would be less fearful if they knew that they were going to be forgotten, or more fearful?
It would depend on the person. I think some people would be relieved and other people would be really frustrated. And for the
Mm,
people that it occurs to, that, hey, I'm going to be forgotten in 3 generations or less, those are the people that do their very best to leave behind something called a legacy. And
mhm,
so, for those types of people, a lot of the time their legacy has to do with making a lot of money and creating some sort of, it could be something involving money. It could be buying buildings. It could be real estate. It could be building foundations that'll last a long time, just so that their name at least is understood and remembered by people. Or even if you don't know who they are, you'll see their name on the side of a building or something like that. But the legacy is often what they want to do is create something for their families for generations to come.
mhm,
And so for some people that fear that, or feel, no, I want to leave a mark, that's why I'm here and I'm going to do everything I can, those are the people that strive to create those types of legacies, and they do. And a lot of the time, we might walk by something and say, oh, I wonder who so and so is, and there's a statue and we've never heard of them before, but we learn about it in that moment. It doesn't mean we know them, but at
mhm,
least we hear their name, and in some ways they stay alive for that reason. So some people want to leave a legacy because they're afraid of death,
mhm,
and other people want to leave a legacy just because they want to leave something special for the generations in their bloodline to follow.
mhm. Now, with my favorite word that you keep saying, tangible, with a tangible legacy left behind, sometimes people think like, oh, it could be leaving behind a school or a book or something that we could physically see. Wouldn't What would your thought be on wouldn't the legacy be the person's overall body of
Of
uh,
work.
work of life per
Right.
se?
And yeah, and there's scientists, of course. There's authors that leave behind a legacy with their body of work, and there's
Mhm,
a lot of different. I mean, I like the body of the. My legacy would involve knowledge, and even if my knowledge isn't attached to my name moving forward, I'm fine with that as long as it's serving people. I don't
mhm,
need to be known after I die. What I would like, though, is for any knowledge that is useful for people, at least as long as it's useful for people. If people evolve past that, that's great. And if I'm forgotten, that's fine. As long as people get everything that I can give them as long as it's useful. So people will equate legacy to a lot of different things, but I think it's very important. You're if you only have this one life to live. I know people believe in reincarnation, and that's fine, but you're only going to remember this one life, and you get to live this one life as if it's the only life you've ever had, and
Mhm.
which means you get to leave a mark while you're here if that's important to you. But if it's not, and you're okay with just drifting through and creating whatever it is you're creating, and after that you're just like, well, I'm done, I'm just going to go now, then, and that's fine. It's your choice as a soul. You can choose
Mhm.
whatever you like. But there's lots of people out there that that's not enough. It's like, well, this is an emergency, this is my only time, and each moment counts. What am I going to do?
Mhm.
So there's that.
Mhm. Yeah, the legacy conversations are always or build curiosity, and then it's paired with the inheritance word as well. And when people hear inheritance, they think, oh, or that their parents left behind them a inheritance, basically, of money. But if you think of inheritance and you zoom out, it's what has been passed down. And you hit it on the head, is like, what am I going to be passing down, not only to the next generation but generations to come, of my teachings, my learning, my knowledge of sharing. So I always think that's a beautiful thing, because we focus so much on the legacy, but I also think of what have we inherited from the day we've come into the world.
Absolutely. And it's who you're leaving a legacy for, too. So, because for some people, they only care about leaving a legacy for their family. And other
Mm,
people, they want to leave a legacy for people who, maybe are dying of breast cancer. And maybe they want to leave a legacy for people who have mental illness, in the form of information or some sort of support center. So it just depends on what your passion is, really, and what that legacy gets to be about for you. And it's as, it's as different as people are different from each other, and
mhm,
that's fine. And I think that's beautiful, and I think that's what we should all be creating. But
mm,
at the same time, there's a lot of people that don't find value in that, and we have all kinds of people on this planet, and uh, we get to love everyone and respect what they want to create while they're alive.
mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah. I wanted to share with you, because I went to Kyoki's celebration of life last Friday, and I was thinking, when I was at the celebration of life in the service, zooming out, looking who showed up, who could have wished they'd been there, who was there in spirit, who has already transitioned. That was just viewing, obviously, Kyoki as well, energetically being there, and being remembered, is the eulogy, someone sharing either one, what's life all about, but also through Kyoki's lens. And it was one of his other best friends was sharing that, when we live our life, if you ask other people, they all have their viewpoint of what the impact we've made, whether it's, you label it good, bad, or ugly, And so he was just saying, it just depends on the person you ask, and the viewpoint of, what has been our mark, and what has that individual has imprinted on our lives. And we keep sharing, you guys, the last 3 episodes, including this episode, is the pillar of unconditional love. And the priest was talking about waking up each day and having that opportunity to go out and love. And I just wanted to share that with you, Guru, because we haven't really been able to, you know, catch up on that part of my life. But I thought it would add value, because it's talked about, you guys. We talk about this, on the last 3 episodes, is love. He was bringing up gratitude for where we're at in our life and where we're going. And also, too, who do we truly love, that maybe right now that we think of, that we could give a phone call, a text message, and just thinking of that. So I thought of you. You're always with me, Guru, but I just wanted to share that because I wanted your viewpoint of really what we always talk about is the unconditional love, waking up every single day. And I don't think I was realizing I had that in my mind. I just go off of like, hey, I want to serve the collective, and that's by, being love every single day and choosing that even in the hard situations, which I've learned that from you. So just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to share that because it fired me up even through, because people go, well, it must have been really sad and this and that. It's like, yes, those are all valid. Sad, angry, whatever emotions each person had. Obviously, I was, sad, but also on the flip side of it is, if one hasn't been to a lot of celebrations of life and really hear what even you and I are talking about right now, those are the conversations daily that we can have. Like, what does your eulogy want to sound like, and go actively live that. Don't just write it down and be like, I want to be remembered this way or this legacy or do this inheritance. It's like, go out and take massive actions. So it filled my heart because I was like, dang, I'm doing this, with no agenda of like knowing. And it was just a good zoom out moment for me just to be like, oh wow, like, you know, when we like you shared earlier with Amanda, when we do our homework, which means being the best version of ourselves and going out there and being the face of love, it's like it's such a good feeling. So I just wanted to share that. And if you had any thoughts on anything I was saying, uh, so
Wow, I love it. Okay, so a part of how people, one of the thoughts that occurred to me when you were talking was one of the reasons why people have a difficult time living as love, being unconditional love, is because of our diversity towards each other. You had mentioned something about how everyone's going to see somebody's life in a different way. So when you're experiencing a eulogy and then people come up to talk about their lives, they're all going to say something different based on their own experiences of the same person. And when they talk, while there's similarities, sometimes you'll say, wow, that I didn't know that about that person. And you might have known them the whole time. So, which is a really, really, really important point in learning how to love people unconditionally. So, your viewpoint is not the end all and be all viewpoint. I'm just talking generally everyone, not John, not you, John, but just people. But yes, you, John, and me and everyone. Does that make sense? I'm talking just generally speaking.
totally. Thank you
Every
for clarifying that for the people viewing.
yeah, just that generally speaking, people's viewpoints are not the end all and be all of the planet. It's impossible. It's impossible. Everyone has a different expertise. Everyone has different circumstances and conditions of who they understand themselves to be based upon so many different factors. So the way they were brought up, the way they decided who they were so they could cope with life and feel safe. There's so many different reasons behind why people have how they develop their consciousness, who they decide they are, that you couldn't possibly have their consciousness even if you were brought up in the same household. So my mother is a twin. And for a long time, she complained about her twin sister, saying, well, why doesn't she have the same ideas and thoughts and everything as me? Because we were brought up the same and blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, come on, she's a different person. She coped with it differently than you. I know you're twins, but that doesn't mean she's going to share your consciousness. And then she'd be frustrated. Well, she's not as organized. She's this, she's that. Why? I don't understand why she can't see life the way I see it. But guys, it's not about that. It's not about somebody else needing to be in your mind and in your consciousness and understand you completely. The only reason people really feel that they need that is because they don't want opposing opinions against their own belief system, because it feels uncomfortable, because then they're wrestling with trying to stay right and safe. That's basically it. And there's a lot of different other things that I could put on there, but in a nutshell, that's it. So it has nothing to do with you being right and you're the only person on this planet out of billions of people that is right. It's not that. For you and your world, you are. And because you've constructed a very unique, consciousness for yourself based upon what has happened to you in your life. And for that, there's nothing wrong with that. But all of us have done it. And, there's billions of us. So if you were the only person that was right, you would be the one person that was on TV 24/7 talking about everything that's right and wrong, because we would all be bowing and looking at you. And chances are that's not happening. So because it hasn't happened and there's not a single person on this planet it's happening to, that probably means that no one is right. None of us. Zero. So we all have a different perspective, and that's okay. And we get to come to the realization and understanding that we're all different. And we get to love our differences. We get to appreciate that other people have different experience from us, because, wow, they might have learned something we didn't. So why not learn from that and expand our own lives and our own consciousness based upon somebody else's experiences? We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to even like them. We just get to listen and understand so that we can expand ourselves. And that's it. So I think at least part, and let me know if you agree, of the reason why people have a hard time being unconditionally loving is because they have a hard time with other people's ideas and thoughts if they conflict with their own. All right. And it's just, we get to embrace diversity and understand that everyone's opinions and thoughts have a valid aspect to them. And everyone is important, and everyone has a right to speak. And we all get to love each other in the process. And that's it. Because we're exactly the same to them. So if you want to be listened to, you get to listen. What do you think?
I love that. All of that was, I'm fired up. So with that being said, is with unconditional love, right? People are always like, I want unconditional love, this and that. If it starts with self, when people really don't know what it is to unconditionally love themselves, right, Guru?
Yeah, it does get to start with you. Yeah, absolutely. So, and people have a really hard time with loving themselves because they've been told their whole lives that the only way to get love is by looking outwards. So it doesn't really work that way, though. So as a baby, you learn that mom and dad are going to, or whoever is supporting you as a baby, is going to offer you that safety and that love and that light. But that doesn't mean that, for the rest of your life into adulthood until you grow old and die, if you're lucky enough to live that long, that's what you should be doing. So we don't understand a lot of the time that the true source of love gets to start within. And then from that point onwards, we can completely love the world. It gets to start from within first, and then we can love the world. Because at that point, as long as we're loving ourselves and we feel safe and secure by ourselves, within ourselves, towards ourselves, then it's easy to love the world. We don't have an agenda. We don't have something where we're trying to take from people anymore. Like, I get to get this person's attention and get them to love me so that I can feel whole and complete. And so there's so much agenda going on because people are feeling lack because they never learned how to love themselves properly. And when you do that, your agenda with another person in a relationship or, in any kind of relationship, it's not going to be pure. So if you love yourself and you fulfill yourself first and you figure all that out, then you can go into the relationship without, trying to source things that you never got or you're not giving yourself. But that's the trick of life. You as you evolve out of being a baby, toddler, childhood, teenagerdom, and then adulthood. At one point in there, you get to figure out, I get to love myself. I get to turn my seeking inward and start to love myself so that I can love the world. because that gets to happen first. And if it doesn't, you're not going to be able to love anyone unconditionally. It's just the way it is. Because how you love yourself is how you see God and how you see the world and how you see everyone else. It's just the way it is.
Do you think the biggest challenge with that is kind of what you were highlighting, the agenda part more than ever?
Yeah, the agenda behind people's interactions with others is one of the most important things you can look at. Like, what does this person want? What is the one focus that they have, the primary focus? What do they want from their relationship with me? It's the very first thing people should look at. And if your standing is unconditional love and that's all they want, then their intentions are always going to be pure. It's always going to be you're always going to be getting that exact same thing, and you can count on that. But if their agenda is, I need to get love from you because I don't love myself, because I feel insecure, then their intentions are going to, that's what they're going to create with you. And that's going to create a lot of problems. So that gets to be known and understood and out in the open.
Got it. Yeah. I think sometimes people wonder why they have challenges and they're attracting those agendas because they have the agendas with themselves on multiple levels of the self-love and unconditional love as well. I wanted to transition into another question about the relationships, is the soul contracts. When people come into the world, the soul contracts that we have, just touch on that a little bit in terms of what that truly means. And as we navigate life and end life, why are some people more significant and some people make impact, and we are forever changed, and that's a benchmark, and we keep going, and maybe we don't hear from them ever again in our life, but they were a pivotal figure in our life. And then maybe also endings, because I think sometimes people, or I've gotten questions asked recently, is like, well, my relationship ended, I've been married for XYZ. John, why do those types of things happen on a soul contract type level?
Sure. So the soul contract concept comes from the idea that before you're born, you go into an agreement with another soul to teach you very specific lessons in this lifetime. Now, these contracts can be sparse, or it can be a relationship that continues on for a great period of your life. It could be just for a moment. It could be it could be for a month. It could be for, the entire time you're alive. It's hard to say. It just depends on what those lessons are. So the contracts are based upon the lessons that you get to learn in this lifetime in order to ascend your consciousness to a higher level, attain enlightenment, and then get off the hamster wheel and not have to come back to this planet anymore and continue to learn the lessons if you don't want to. Now, some people come back and they decide to teach, but I see Earth as kind of as a kindergarten for the most part, where we're learning how to not put mud in our mouths and swallow it, that kind of thing. and if you look around at the planet, it's pretty obvious that we have the types of consciousness that are here. If you're looking at all the way down to bacteria alone, bacteria is the type of consciousness that gets to consume something else to stay alive. And as we go up the food chain, a lot of the time it's still like that. Even with people, they feel as though they get to consume, and we do, obviously. This is how our digestive system works for the most part. We get to consume something else in order to stay alive. It's that dog-eat-dog mentality a lot of the time. And we've created an entire food system that that reflects that. So we've made it effective and efficient in a lot of ways, but it's not all that effective because of all the toxins, which is why some people go straight up carnivore, because if you're eating specific types of meat and just eggs, if it's from a farm, the toxins that you're eating are greatly reduced, and they find that, you know, a lot of people heal from a lot of diseases because of how heavily impacted our food sources are when it comes to toxins. I regress. I regress. I'm trying to remember what the beginning point of my conversation was because I skipped around to a bunch of different topics. Maybe you could support me.
Yeah, the soul contracts, and you were just saying how people, you know, it could be a relationship of a month or something maybe in their business, and it's people coming in and out
Yeah.
throughout, um, but also relating to their conscious level as well.
Yes, absolutely. So it's based upon the lessons that you're learning and what you get to learn and what you haven't learned for your soul yet. So, you know, maybe you have a life, and you know, you go through that in your other life. You go through complete amnesia, of course, because you don't remember anything else about your entire existence as a soul, which, you know, you've been alive a really long time. And if you remembered everything that you knew during that life, then you wouldn't be able to have an organic experience, honestly. So we get amnesia when we're here, and then you die, and then you know you have you have these different types of communications, looking at the types of lessons you still haven't learned yet as a soul, and
Mhm.
then you get into these conversations, so to speak. You know, it looks a certain way on the other side, and when you don't have a body, these different types of agreements and conversations with other souls that are going to be joining you in this upcoming life, and then you evaluate what you haven't learned yet, and then you go into an agreement with each other. Well, you get to learn these lessons, I get to learn those lessons, maybe we can teach each other this and this. Okay, that sounds good. And so then you're paired together, and then you learn the lessons. So that's the soul contract. So depending on your level of consciousness is going to depend on what levels, or excuse me, what lessons that you're learning.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to say. It's really diverse, but you know, it's just a system that we've been using as a human soul for a very long time.
And with that being said, is there that back and forth of the student and the teacher with the soul? So, say, like, for example, maybe a business relationship. One's the teacher, like a mentor, and one's maybe an up and coming, you know?
To be fair, I feel like everyone and everything is the teacher. There's
Mm,
always something to learn from every single situation. I would say, I mean, I'm a teacher, but I get taught, I think, more information from my students than I teach them.
got it.
So we get to look at our interactions with people as every time we interact with people or an object, or, you know, the plant life, you know, other life forms, animals, we are also having a relationship with something that's divine. And if the divine is present, it's going to have something to teach you. And
Mm,
that's every single soul. So we can't walk through this life thinking that, you know, we understand about ourselves to the point where nothing else can teach us except for maybe that one teacher. Maybe they can teach us. That's not going to serve you in the way that you think it's going to. The best way to think about it is everyone has something to teach me, and I would love to understand what that is, and it deserves a second look every time. So go into situations saying, what can this teach me? How can I grow?
mhm. It's so good. I wanted to end on this, Guru, because I always think call to actions are so impactful. And we've had so many incredible questions. We had our first guest in Amanda, and a little, I think, maybe a little homework assignment in terms of what would be a good homework assignment for our viewers listening about self love and or unconditional love. Kind of what I was saying about how they were saying at the celebration of life is we can wake up and we could go out and we can choose to be love. What would you give as a homework assignment on that?
Aw. Well, I would say the very first step in, or one of the steps that you can take, it just depends on the person, it's very individual, but if there are ways that you're judging yourself and others, I would start writing down all of those things. Or if you don't know what judgment is and you don't really get it and you don't know that you're judging, then it's easier to, when something is rubbing you, write it down. So if something is irritating you, if something is bothering you about an interaction between you and something or someone else, or even yourself and the way you're treating yourself, then write it down and start developing an awareness of what all those things are, and start journaling about them and begin to heighten your awareness even more, because awareness is the first step in any kind of growth. After that, it would be about, how can I do this better? How can I grow from this situation? But in order for me to extrapolate on that, it's very difficult, because I'd get to understand what the specific scenarios are. But I can say that a very good first step is, at very least, developing an awareness of what the issues are that you're going through, and understanding that you get to start taking accountability for what you're creating in the situation. It's really important. So in every situation that you have with anything or anyone, including yourself, there is a responsibility that you have in your co-creation of what's going on. And developing an awareness of how you're accountable and that you actually can change your actions to start changing the behavior is one of the keys in at least beginning to grow from the situation. It's a good starting point. So if you guys have any questions, you can email me, you can leave a comment below, you can let me know what these things are in any way that you'd like to, and I'd be happy to bring them up on one of these episodes and discuss it completely. So if you, the more detail you send me, the better. I'd be happy to do so. So please feel free to do that so that I can support you. It would mean a lot to me personally to be able to support anyone out there that's listening. And but do the exercise. Do the exercise and then present to me what those issues are, and then we can go from there. And, you know, because I know a lot of people can't actually, they're not never going to see me in a private session. So this is, at the very least, something that I can offer that's not close, but it's something. And I would love to support anyone that wants to have that information in that way. So please do that. And did I answer that, John? Was there something else?
No, I love that homework assignment. I think it goes hand in hand in terms of what Amanda was sharing for her breakthroughs. You guys, this is just a sneak peek, of your own self-development, of something that you could implement. And that's why we're here. That's why we're doing these lives, is to add value to your lifestyle. And then you can go out there and do the same for the people that you love the most and the people closest to you. So thanks, Guru. That's all the questions I have. Until next time, just super grateful. Thanks for taking the time and always sharing space with me.
Oh, of course. I'm so grateful for you too. And you ask really great questions. So thank you for your candor and your transparency and your honesty and your vulnerability too, because I think we all get to see more of that in the world. So I'm grateful. So thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right,
everyone. Take care.
We're going to sign off. Love you guys. Until next time. If you're watching this in a recording, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste.